Rob, what is going on, brother? Are you ready to let it rip?
Let's let it rip, bro.
All right, hell yeah. Rob, dude, I cannot be more appreciative of you being here with us. You and I have had a lot of really good quality interactions outside of what everyone knows us as. And I think that's really the big part, is getting to know people on more of a personal level based on who they are, what they see for themselves, what they see in themselves, and how they've gone about navigating the crazy course of life and success. So why don't you start with introducing yourself, what it is you're known for, but most of all, the accolades that you have as the individual?
Well, I mean, who I am is a very layered question. I mean, that's I'm a 51-year-old man, first and foremost. I've walked a lot of paths in life, but over the last 32 years, I've been primarily a force in the tattoo world. I own a brand called Electrum. So we have a full supply company. We have tattoo ink company. It's a full international tattoo brand. It's very, very well recognized throughout the tattoo ecosystem. Very proud of that. But I've been an entrepreneur at heart my whole life. I owned my first business when I was 17 years old in high school. And really, I've just been chasing that itch my whole life, just the pursuit of self fulfillment and self-directed freedom. I've never really been a person that's enjoyed punching somebody else's time clock. I got to have that liberty to move and pivot as I see, my vision taking me every day. So, more than anything, I say I'm a visionary and a brand creator. And, I'd say that's what my real expertise is.
Now, I really want to jump into all of that, because that's a pretty common thing in a very uncommon world. Like, the conversations that we have is usually, I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit, the creative soul to not toe the mark or maintain the social expectations. I have my own standards. So to you, what did that feel like coming up and going against the grain right out of the gate? You said you're 51, so it started before the big increase or even presence of social media. So you were on your own, kind of on an island, building your own empire. What was the battle like in the beginning? And is this what you envisioned long-term where you're at?
No, man. So I was in high school when I started my first business, and it was kind of a light bulb moment, right? It wasn't like something that I just was like, oh, I want to start this business. It was just, I was at a buddy's house one day and we were just fucking around in his living room. And I looked on the coffee table and there was like a car stereo catalog on the coffee table in his living room. And I picked it up and I started leafing through, and it had all the top brand stuff in there, Alpine and Pioneer. But the prices in there were like really low. Like I was like, how are these prices so low for these stereos? Because this is like really expensive stuff. And he said, oh, my dad sells that stuff. He's a distributor. He sells that stuff to all the local car shops. And he goes, those are the prices that those are his prices, the factory prices. And I said, bing. And I was like, dude, I need to talk to your dad. Right. So I talked to his dad and I was like, bro, I could be selling this stuff to all the kids at school. Mm-hmm. Like I could sell car stereos that's back in the, late, early 90s, man, when everybody was putting bumps in their car, stereos and subwoofers and all the thumps, so like we had that stuff in our cars. And so I said, dude, hook me up, man. So he gave me a blank catalog, and he said, write your own prices in here, take it to school, see if you can sell some stuff. If you can, come back, let me know what you need. And of course we had buddies that hooked up all that stuff in the cars as well. Yeah. So we would sell it to the kids, all these rich kids at school, mom and dad's money, putting their stereos in their cars. Yep. So we're basically just, shave 10, 15% off the local car stereo, price. And we'd sell these stereos to these kids at school. And that's how I started my first business, So after that, it was just, that's what created that itch. And ever since then, it's just been I'll tell you, Mikey, one thing I've realized is I'm good at starting businesses, but I hate running businesses.
Right? I can attest to that. Holy shit. Yeah, man.
I've definitely started more businesses than I've made successful. I love starting businesses as well. So yeah, I like hearing that.
I think there's a lot to be said about that though, because like, and this is the big thing I struggle with, whether it's with the Force of Focus, Born Ready, Legacy Tattoo. My own tattoo career is kind of a one-off because it's my heart, my soul, but it's because of the creative dream patterns we get to have about how big it can get, what it's going to take, the little nuances that are going to make us stand out and different. But then once it becomes this flow state or like a flywheel, then it's like, oh, well, fucking systems and the same thing every day. I'm out.
No, now, you know, the difference is that now all of a sudden you create a business. Well, as soon as you get sucked into running the business, now you're punching a clock and you're working for somebody again. And that's all the shit you hate doing. So you gotta, you can't only just be successful at starting businesses. You got to know how to bring people in to run your businesses and be able to trust people to run your businesses. Absolutely. I haven't necessarily quite figured that part out yet.
Okay. Yeah. And you know, I don't think anyone really does. No, I think people do, but then it becomes like top tier. When people get upset about the 1%, those guys have just figured out the stuff everyone else is struggling to get to the bottom of. I think there's a matter of not someone having it all figured out, but the willingness to never stop figuring stuff out, that it exhausts the hell out of me. You know, I'm going to work until the day I die. And I don't believe that, you know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Well, that sounds terrible also. So I'm just going to continuously make it feel like work so I know I'm going places. But there's always going to be the inevitable chase of, but also structure and systems and leading a team and clocking in and out. It's, you know, it's never going to be perfect, but I think that's what makes it exciting. You know, once it's perfect, then you're retired. Right. And then it goes to imperfect very quickly.
Right.
So with all that being said, man, you and I have had a lot of conversations about your, I'm gonna butcher the name, but it's Successrifice, correct?
Perfect. Yeah, you said it
okay.
Exactly right.
Look at me, nailed it. Give me a little bit of the backstory on that, because I think your model really relates to what it is we do here at the Force. But I think there's obviously going to be nuances based on personal experience and the what's and the whys and the hows. So how did you come to the name and even like the book that you just created? Like, where did that system come from on the personal level?
So the concept, I've kind of figured out this concept's been in the works for about 30 years now, right? Mm-hmm. So I have this habit of writing everything, right? I journal a lot. Like I have always journaled a lot. I guess kind of started when I got locked up when I was 19 years old. You know, I was just, what else do you do when you got time on your hands? You just write a lot and read a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I got into philosophy a lot, you know, in my early 20s. I was reading tons of philosophy. And then I started writing philosophy because I found out that philosophy was really the key to true honesty in assessing situations in life, right? And trying to apply logic to everyday situations that happen to you as a human being in life, right? Mm-hmm. And I always liked journaling because it was the one space where I forced myself to tell the truth about myself, right? Like I always have this rule when I journal, no lies in the journal, because nobody else is going to read it, right? It doesn't matter what you write in there. There's no judgment in there. Nobody's going to come back and, you know, say anything negative about anything that you wrote in there unless you let someone read it, which I typically don't let. And I don't know if I told you this, but I was like, the other day I was like, man, if because I have all my journals, they're just randomly all over the freaking house, you know. So it's like, man, if I die and people pick these up and start reading them, bro,
it's too late at that point.
It's like when everybody says, if I die, someone clear my browser history. Like there's just some shit in there. You're not going to want people to
grab one and read it at the funeral. I found these old philosophy notes by Mr. Rob. I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 1 of it.
But dude, you know, the thing is the journal contains a lot of my darkest, deepest moments, right? Like a lot of the stuff that I'm not proud of in life is in the pages of those journals. You know what I mean? So, but the point of all that is that I think, during the time when I really started getting into journal is when all of this stuff kind of started to plant a seed in my brain, and it was slowly developing without me even really realizing it was developing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, negativity's been a big force in my life, and not just negativity, because everybody has negativity. We're all deal with negative stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But what I found my biggest challenge is how I respond to negativity. And that's always what's held me back the most in life. Right. So
Yep.
I always am wired to respond to negativity with negativity. Like, somebody elevates on me, I elevate right back up. You know what I mean? You get in an argument with your wife or your kids, it turns into a loud screaming thing, and you say things you don't mean, and there's explosives, and there's just all this stuff that, after the fact, when you're sitting back self-reflecting, you're like, damn, I know I could have handled that 100 times better than what I did. That was a real failure, right? So those things throughout time have all been applicable to where I am now, So I started writing a book right after COVID, and it was all about negativity in my life, just what I just said. And so I started writing all that stuff in my journals and applying philosophy to that kind of stuff. And I started writing a book, but about halfway through the course of writing that book, I realized, I was like, well, writing this stuff down and reading this stuff isn't going to change my behavior, right? It'll change it in the moment, but I'll just relapse. I'll keep relapsing because I know my patterns and my behavior. So I needed a tool, right? So that's when I stopped and I said, I'm going to put this warrior journal together, right? Because this was for me. Yeah. This is what I need every day to remind me of the lessons I was teaching myself in that first book that I was writing. This is my tool to keep myself accountable. I do this every day, right? So I used that tool for a long time, and it really helped me elevate and improve myself. And it helped me to not respond to negative situations with negativity. It started rewiring my brain and my thought process, right? So I thought, man, this is super powerful. Now I'm just going to put this out in the universe and see if some of my friends, because I have friends that are drug addicts. I have friends that are alcoholics. I have friends that struggle with things just like I struggle with things, but different things, right? I have friends that are ex-convicts that are trying to figure out how to make their life right after they get out of prison. You know what I mean? So I thought, man, I need to put this in the hands of a couple people in particular that I thought right off the rip, and I sent it out to some people, and the feedback was good. So then I just decided, I'm just going to publish this book and put it out there and see what happens. And it's been crazy, dude. I never really had plans with Successrifice. That word just popped into my mind a few years ago, and I thought, and I don't even know when. I could have been at the gym, or I don't even know. I might have just been on a walk, and that word just manifested in my brain. And I was like, that's the perfect word to sum up all of the stuff that I've been working on for the last 30 years, because to me, every success I've had comes with some degree of sacrifice, be it small or large, right? I've just always have to sacrifice something to be successful. And I thought that's really applicable in everybody's life, right? So whether you own a business, you hear these business owners all the time talk about, oh, if you want to be successful, you got to work 60 hours a week. You got to be willing to not go to those kids' soccer games. You got to miss family outings.
So with all that being said, now that we had the weird little technical difficulties, so in your life, where did you notice where the hard sacrifices had to be made? Because I think a big issue with a lot of people are the hard sacrifices. We can make easy ones, the obvious ones, the junk food and the drinking and the nights out with the boys and all that shit. Those are obvious. We know in ourselves. But, and this is a question for me because I still struggle with making the hard yes or no decisions, living a season of no and just turning down the things that I want to do for the things that I have to be willing to prioritize. Where did you start noticing those harder decisions coming up? And do you notice the harder decisions are more prevalent now that you've been able to create the brand that you have?
Oh man, for me, that's a tough one, dude, because I've always listened to all those guys that say those things, but I've been a guy that's never really been willing to sacrifice family time for work stuff. Because my kids are super important to me, dude. So they're only going to be 5 once. They're only going to have that soccer game once. I never wanted to miss that stuff when I was, when my kids were young.
Yep.
So I would think, I probably missed a lot of opportunities because of that, but that's okay. My kids are all older now. They're all out of the house. I'm by myself again. So now I have that freedom to work 80 hours a week if I want. I don't have anything really constraining me like that now. But don't get it wrong. There were a lot of times where I was working like ridiculous amounts of hours. I've always been that way. But when but when it was time to unplug, I definitely unplugged.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what needs to be heard. I don't believe that people need to be told, if you want to win, fuck your family. I think that's the worst advice in the world. I've worked for tattoo artists who have said that. I've worked for other business owners and entrepreneurs who have said that. Like, our time's more valuable if you want to win. Your family relies on you not being there by building the empire, and they'll thank you later. Like, I'm not looking for the future gratitude of my family. I'm looking for the present moments and experiences with my family, because those are the things that keep me going. I don't know about anybody else who watches this, and I know Jake can attest to this, but what keeps me going is knowing that I'm undistracted by fear and worry and stress of work when I get to play with my son. Like you said, he's almost 3. He's only going to almost be 3 one fucking time.
Right.
And what gives me the ability to be present for him in the moments I have is knowing that I'm sacrificing everything else that can distract me from what needs to be done when it's required everywhere else.
Yeah. Well, and
I
I've
think
lived
you
on
got it. Sorry, go ahead, Jake.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and the outcome was the same no matter if I missed those things or if I didn't. If I worked those 12-hour days or I told myself I'm stopping at 8 and going to be present in the moment. I don't know if the same outcome was for you, Rob, but I didn't see any difference. And like Mikey said, I've worked for those guys. I've been around those bosses. I mean, hell, I was on the railroad for 3 years as a conductor, and I missed every holiday. I was a chef for many, many years, and we worked 365. I was at an Indian casino, and I told myself, I said, never fucking again am I missing these times. And those outcomes have always been the same. No matter if I put in more hours or if I stop myself, I just felt better about the outcome when I gave myself that hard stop and said, I'm not missing this. So I don't know if the outcome was the same for you, Rob, putting in those endless hours and missing that one soccer game to where if you fucking showed up to the game.
Well, I think it's all about balance, right? To me, it's about balance. So it's like, if I know I got something that I want to do on Friday with my kids, but I know I got this mountain of work to get done before Friday, well, then there's no fucking choice. Yeah. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're putting the hours in to allow yourself the time on Friday. Yeah. It cracks me up, dude. Like, I was walking through a bookstore the other day, and I was just walking down the middle aisle, and they have these, they have these end caps with these, displays on them, whatever. And I just happened to look over and I saw this, like, have you ever seen those decks of cards or like motivation decks? Like, you draw a card, it's like positive thoughts on it or something like that. Well, it was a deck of cards like that, but it said something about anti-grind, tell your boss to fuck off kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? Right. So I pick it up, and I know this anti-grind culture is a real thing today, right? This is a thing. Like, and I struggle with this because I picked this up and I'm like, what is this anti-grind shit? It's like, I've experienced this now in my own businesses. It's like, people want you to hire them for 6 figures with no experience and no degrees or no real working. They think they should be making 100K out of the freaking gate, and like, they should be only having to work 5 hours a day, and they should be able to work remotely. And there's like, deadlines don't matter. And it's like, I'm like, what is this mindset, dude? I can't deal with this.
You just used 2 words that make me and Mike cringe. It was balance and grind. And I think so many fucking people have misinterpreted those 2 words because they don't actually know what the fuck they mean, where they're using balance in their daily diets and they're using grind because they worked over 8 hours. It's like, are you really using those 2 words to your full potential? I think when you now just express them to anybody listening, they have a positive meaning to them, and it's a real factual fucking statement, Mike, I don't know your take on those words.
I my issue with balance is usually people who use it just want to land back at zero. You know what I mean? People who use balance more frequently are the weekend warrior kinds, not the people who have alignment in everything. And I think, Rob, you and I had this conversation the other day when we were doing one of our morning shoot the shit sessions. Because I think balance is important, but first you have to understand that balance has to come with some sort of goal in mind. Otherwise, it's 10 steps forward, 10 steps back, comfortably adequate to start back to just kind of stay stagnant. You're sprinting in place. You know, the difference between a marathon and a treadmill, same exerted energy, one actually gets you to a destination.
Well, yeah, you can't say balance if you've never hit the 110% mark. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like,
no, to me, balance is like, okay, I worked my ass off all week. Now Sunday, I'm tired. Balance is recognizing that I'm tired and I need to give myself a little bit of a mental break. Like,
yeah,
that's balance. It's having the knowledge to say, dude, you went 110 miles an hour for 6 days, bro. It's okay if you sit down for a second and take a break.
Yep. We've had that conversation with tattoo artists. I mean, just I guess creatives or just people in general, where it's like, you know, well, I take half days off on Saturday and all of Sunday off because, you know, it's because I need balance. I need that rest. It was like, okay, cool. What did you do the rest of the week?
Right.
And then blank stares across the room as if that's the most offensive question you could have asked a person. But that's what it like, even when you go into the religious aspect, like the reason Sabbath was a real thing was God created the earth in 6 days and rested on the seventh. That sounds like a pretty fucking large load to carry to earn the rest of the balance of.
Right.
But, and then again, I think it does go back to the, I don't want to use terms like entitlement or ego, but just a lack of clarity because we live in a world where there are so many options, but so much information. There's so much availability for success, but so many distractions that balanced has been rewritten in like the ebbs and flows of, I want all these things, but social media, porn, and partying. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, that's not exactly what balance refers to. But okay, so with all of that, I know one big pillar in your life is not only the journaling and the self-reflection, the self-excellence. Where does your fitness and your nutrition come into play, and how has it impacted the person you get to show up as every day? This is something Jake's gonna love. It was a volley.
Yeah, it's huge, dude. It's had its ebbs and flows, man. You know, like I've had several injuries. So I've had 2 torn ACLs. I've had torn bicep, torn rotator cuff. So there've been a lot of times where I've been on the shelf and not been able to train like I like to train, you know, and those are really challenging times because if you're into fitness and you're into going to the gym, you know, those first couple weeks back into the gym are the most difficult couple weeks of your life, man. Like it is really hard to get back in there and start lifting weights again and just motivate yourself to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning every morning to get to the gym by 4. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But once you get over that hump, you know, then it becomes addicting. You know, I think fitness is addicting to me. It is especially, and not the act of fitness, but just what fitness does for me mentally and physically, the way it makes me feel, you know. It puts me on a natural high that's better than any drug or alcohol.
The greatest
or any
antidepressant ever. Yeah, greatest antidepressant ever.
Yeah, I mean, I love to do it in the morning because it gets my endorphins firing and it just sets me on the right path for the day. You know, I always work out first thing in the morning. That's another thing when you talk about balance, Mikey. You know, like I talked to you the one day and I said, hey, dude, you know, 4 to 6 a.m., everything's shut off. No phone, no emails. I'm not talking to anybody. That's my time. I'm in the gym. I'm focused 100% on me, bro. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't mess around with that 4 a.m. I did that 5 a.m. crew thing for so long, and it just set my days that much longer and a lot more caffeine. So my hours are typically like that 7 to 9. And if I don't get in that walk, the meditation, the red light, all the good stuff, man, my days are numbered. And that's the first thing we tell people, especially when we explain our core 4, which is our personal development, is give yourself that time. You know, when we talk to so many of these entrepreneurs, they don't know what it's like to just block off 2 hours just to dedicate to yourself and how much better your day is going to be moving forward. And the people that actually commit to it what do we say? It usually takes 21 days for a habit. I think everybody's a little bit different, but I'm like, give that at least 3 weeks and just see how you feel. And they usually come back and they're in tip top shape by that point.
I think a big element to that is the 21 days to create a habit is accurate, but you have to be able to first be able to spotlight the distractions that keep you from being able to create that kind of consistency. Nobody ever takes it into consideration. And this goes back to something that Robin said, like, you need to understand the sacrifices that have to be made. Sometimes the biggest sacrifices are the vices, the distractions, and the noise, so you can stay focused in the thing that becomes the habit.
Yeah.
And Jake, on that whole, like, I love the fact that you're as disciplined as you are when it comes to your non-negotiable of don't bother me until. It's not your time management that's the problem, it's your time zone. So we need to get you moved out of California because it's really inconvenient for my workflow.
It's 95 degrees here, Mikey. I'm not going nowhere.
Yeah, I don't blame you, bro.
Rob, you mentioned, how hard it is to get back in from someone who's been in fitness their whole life. I mean, I've done physique shows, I've done powerlifting, I've done CrossFit, I've, owned and ran gyms, and it's hard coming off the stages or those competitions, coming back to a Monday, just like as a musician, going on the road, you wake up that day in your hometown, you're ready to fucking go again. What do you think it is for you? Because I know most people, when they think of going to the gym, that means they've got to start their diet. They've got to stop drinking. They've got to stop smoking the cigarettes. They got to pick up the gallon of water. They've got to go on a low carb diet. They've given themselves all these platforms. Again, we talk about balance, and they just fail after 2 weeks. What is your commitment level when you get back in? Is it just back to the grind, or is it just one foot in front of the other, just kind of like taking your time, easing back into stuff when you fall off of that?
Man, it depends on the day, dude. And I'm just not as, I'm a little bit more forgiving with myself these days,
Sure.
like, especially since I've had injuries, like I'm a heavy lifter anyways. I have to really fight with my ego a lot in the gym. I'm like, oh, come on, bro, you could do that whole freaking stack, or I get it, but then I'm like, you don't need to do that whole stack, bro. What are you trying to prove to anybody? Just get in there and just do the work, man. But as far as like, I eat healthy and clean, bro. I don't do fast food. But I'm also not so crazy with it where I'm like keeping track of my calories and my macros and all that shit like I used to. I don't do any of that shit anymore.
Well, at this point, you probably know your body a little bit more than you did 20 years ago too.
Yeah. And I used to focus a lot on diet when I was younger. But over the years, dude, I've just learned, man, it's if you're not competing and you're not like, because like competition, bro, I would never want to do that shit. The crazy dieting that you have to do. I mean, fuck all that, bro. That's nuts.
I mean, for me, I had to do it because, now it was at 40 years old was the first time I got up as a physique. And you told my 20-year-old self that, I would have laughed at that tan and those board shorts a million times, but for me, it was discipline and being the best coach I could, because I needed to see for myself what these athletes went through. And I tell people that the diet wasn't even the hardest part. It was shaving and getting the fake tan. That was the most pain in the ass for me. And people like laugh. I'm like, for me, I could be disciplined and eat whatever the fuck I want, but shaving your legs and your whole body and going and getting spray tan, that was the nightmare.
There's something about the banana hammock and paint myself
about?
Brown thing that just doesn't do it for me.
Rob, I see the belt behind you. Can you explain that?
Oh, that's just that's just an Electrum belt. We were going to do we were trying to incentivize, some of our sponsored artists to make content and stuff for us and trying to make things fun and like do some kind of a competition. And I had mentioned to my team, I was like, well, we should give our top, our top content creator, our top ambassador, at the end of the year, they should get $5,000 cash and we should give them a championship belt. And my team thought that was the dumbest idea in the world, but I already had the belt in the process of being made, So.
Yeah. At that point, opinion didn't matter.
Yep.
I think it's a great idea.
So it's just hanging here on my wall, if I ever decide to give it away to anybody, but.
Right. I love the idea, and I will give them all a run for your money if you're ever looking for a tattoo artist to out-create content for anybody. The Force of Focus has taught me one thing. You can create everything just by doing everything.
Right.
Yeah. But, okay, back on topic. Dude, you have always been like an inspiration because you don't come off like the big aggressive, like, here's what you got to do, Electrum, grizzly bear hands. You've got like a real cool calm about you. And I think things like that require a lot of authenticity, and it requires a lot of authority. You know, authority is going to be built through what it is you've been able to face, what it is you've been able to overcome, and what it is you've been able to create. So where does a lot of your peace and your calm come from, knowing that you are such a disciplined and dialed guy and you can turn that on? Like, can you kind of express a little bit like how you were able to get control over your emotions, going back to the beginning of the call, and how it is you can maintain that kind of cool and calm in the way the world is, the way that competitions become, and all the changes in industries so rapidly?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a work in progress, dude. You know, if you would have met me freaking 30 years ago, dude, you would have seen a totally different person. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up in violence, bro, like legitimately, you know, so I'm just prone to violence, dude. Like even you know, even when I don't even like going out to bars, dude, just because like I'm just that guy, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I'll sit in the corner by myself. I don't fuck with people, dude, but I'm that guy that if heat comes in my atmosphere, you know, I'm just reactive to it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like I really had to learn I really had to learn how to, you know, deal with that part of myself in a constructive way, because all that behavior 30 years ago just led me down some really dark paths, you know, and I ended up in jail for a long time. Uh, and I got, you know, I was still fighting when I was in jail. I was, you know, kicking and screaming for 25 years of life, bro, you know, just fighting the system, fighting myself. So, but a lot of that was all learned behavior. You know, I always like to, I think about life like a movie, you know, and I think
Mhm.
like every day I ask myself, am I playing the role in my movie today, or am I playing the role in someone else's movie today?
Yeah.
That's the way my mind always works on things now. And these are the
Yeah.
things that I always try to keep central in my focus, in my thought. So like, if let's just say, for example, I'm driving in traffic and some asshole cuts me off and pisses me off, right? I'm going to react to it. I know I'm going to react to it, but I have to stop myself and say, wait a minute, is this my movie or his movie?
Yeah.
How does this go in my movie? How does this go in his movie? And
Yep.
which role do I want to play? And most of the time today, I want to try to ensure that I'm playing the role in my own movie, right? All those other 30 years I spent playing the role in other people's movies. So I'm
Yeah.
not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
I like that approach. I usually go with the video game analogy. Like, you can pick your own character, but I spent a long time waiting in, like, almost, I guess, metaphorically, in the waiting room. I was the same way. I was a little guy, but I was the most violent one. I was the loudest guy in the room, and I was always unapproachable because I was navigated by the energy I was surrounded by. If I was in a high energy environment, I would be the most high energy. When I'm around more calm and more collected people, I can then absorb that. And I compare it to the video game approach because the levels kept getting harder, but I stayed the exact same person through all of them. I wasn't evolving. I wasn't becoming stronger mentally or emotionally or physically. But I realized, like, if I can pick my own character, what would that character's attributes be? What would be the things that allowed him to navigate this simulation or this open world? And that really helped me get clear on, say, things like core values or my own personal standards, and that helped me create a lot of that momentum to avoid becoming a character, like a primary character in someone else's movie, and to be able to stay in my lane for that. So with all that, like, who's the character that Rob chose to be when all of that switched and you were given the option, or you were like given the freedom you were hoping for? Who is the character, or what were the traits that you decided you were going to live by? Obviously, they weren't always easy to implement immediately, but who would you consider yourself as these days in comparison?
So today I just consider myself an operator, right? Like the true essence of the word operator, you know, like I have an operating system that I put into my brain,
Yeah.
and I operate to that, right? I also have a critic inside of me that's always telling me I'm not good enough at something, or I shouldn't be doing this, or whatever. You know, we all have that internal critic that likes to cast self-doubt on our story, right? I used to let that critic run the show, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
I don't do that anymore. I hear what that critic's saying, but I also know when to tell that critic, shut the fuck up and sit down. The
Yeah.
operator's taking over now. the operator knows the right things to do. The operator's running the show. And as long as I can keep that operator in charge and not allow those other voices in my head to come to the front and take over, then I'll be okay. But it's a very delicate line to walk, Mikey, you know, like, especially when you're prone to letting that critic take control of your life for so long. Like, these are the things that so many people struggle with. And I think if you can figure out how to control that switch, that's the true key to the success of it all, right? You have to be able to control the switch, and a lot of people can't control that switch. They let other people control their switch.
I like how you said critique. We use the Andy Frisella phrase, bitch voice.
Yeah, or the internal terrorist. I really like I always tell people I don't negotiate with terrorists, because the strongest terrorist in my life is always that voice in my head telling me I can't, I shouldn't, I'm not ready, it needs more. It's always reminded me of all the terrible shit in my past. And I don't negotiate with terrorists anymore.
But bro, you can tell when you're talking to people in everyday life.
Yeah.
Whether it's an operator that you're talking to or whether it's a critic that you're talking to. Just think about like this, for example. If you go to work somewhere and people tell you and they say, "Oh, I need you to move that stack of this over to here." And automatically that person's like, "Oh, that can't be done because this and this and this," right?
Yeah.
That's a critic talking, right? That's not an operator talking, because an operator would figure out how the fuck to get that shit done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
But I think it's more common for critics to rule the world, right? Critics rule the world. If you look at social media, look at everything. I mean, this world is run by not operators. It's run by critics.
Opinions, yeah.
And opinions, right. People that don't have control over their own thoughts and their own movement.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that should be said more often, but I think people just kind of avoid the inevitable of the way that the world works is no different than the way our own personal ecosystems work. The more negative we bring in, the more negative the world brings in, the more that becomes the navigational system of. But I love your comparison of the critic as opposed to the operator. We can try to over exaggerate or over explain as much as we want as to all the different nuances, but that's really what it is. It is this or that. I mean, there's also the non-person player who just kind of coasts, but the two people who have the most impact are the critics and the operators. And I think the point of whether it's Successrifice or the Force of Focus or whatever, whoever's out there trying to do their damnedest just to change one life, 10 lives, whatever the case may be, is we genuinely just want to be able to pull people out of their own negative self-talk, their own limiting beliefs, their own constant of what was, to be able to create what needs to be and inevitably will be with the right A, B, and C to create X, Y, and Z. And I think that's what I really like about the conversations you and I have, is it's not nearly as much about all the problems we see as much as it is the solutions that we've been able to find. And so it's an exchange of energy, not a depletion of energy. And like you said, when you have a conversation with somebody, you can feel it when somebody is depleting your energy, when they're either like kind of interjecting negativity or doubt into the conversation. You carry that with you into the next. So you need to be as cautious about how you speak to yourself as you do in the conversations that you're willing to have with others, because we are creatures of our environments and of our habits, you know?
Yeah. Rob, I think, it's kind of a split question, but at what point did you recognize the critique and when were you able to overcome the two? Because I like to go back. I tell a lot of my clients, it all starts with making your bed. And once you make that bed every morning, it sets that path for your non-negotiables. Do you have a morning routine or certain non-negotiables that you allow to not let your critique and your operator come on? For sure.
Like, yeah. I like your video game analogy, Mikey, because I just finished, I just finished chapter 18 in my first book. I'm finishing that book up now. Mm-hmm. But chapter 18 is called The Final Boss, right? And that's that moment in time when I looked in the mirror and I was like, here one morning and I was looking at myself because I wasn't happy of a situation that happened, and I wasn't happy with the outcome, and I was really fucking pissed at myself for the way I handled the situation when I knew better, right?
Mhm.
When I knew this is around the time when I was trying to
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
and quiet enough that the operator can succeed. That critic's there every day, Jake. Like that critic was there this morning,
Yeah.
like, you you're not gonna go to the gym today. You're not fucking feeling it today, are you? Blah blah blah. You
Yeah.
shut up. Yeah, I'm going to the gym.
I don't know if you're a heavy metal guy, but there's a song by the band Fit for a King. It's called Breaking the Mirror. And that's the one that you said mirror. That's the one that hit it for me in 2019. That song I heard for the first time. And that was the day I looked in the mirror and I fucking, self broke the mirror. And you have to ask yourself. And that's the same thing we tell every single one of our clients is take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you A, being honest with yourself? And B, are you being the best fucking version of yourself there is? If you lie to yourself, that's your own, that's your fault right there,
Yeah.
But I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Me and Mikey just had this conversation a few weeks ago, right? When I said, the easiest person in the world to lie to is yourself. You could tell
Mm.
yourself lies so easily, and you're so quick to believe your own lies, like because it's the easy way out all the time,
Yeah.
right? You're always going to give yourself the easy way out, and if you do, you're going to take it every single time. And that's that critic winning all the time, right? Well, the operator's not going to accept that easy out. The operator,
That's always It's always what I disliked about the catchphrase when people say, "Well, that's my truth." Well, like there's a valid difference between my truth and the truth because my truth, especially in the way that it's utilized, everyone can have their own truth, but for what? Like is your truth coming from the validation and the acceptance of your own lies to create your own reality in them? Because there has to be a difference. Like I loved what you were saying about your journaling process. Rule number one, don't lie to yourself. Because every time you tell yourself you can't do something, you're lying to yourself. You're just unwilling to be honest about being unwilling to do something. Because going back to the critic or the operator, you don't need a million reasons on why it can't be done. You just need one thing to get the ball rolling on how you can make it happen, and we all have that. I don't believe anyone like the obvious statement of all men were created equal. That doesn't mean all men will create the same outcome, but in most cases, shy of paraplegics or people with like obvious disabilities, are created in such a way where we have the potential of creating magic in our own lives. And even those people have the potential of creating magic in their own lives. It's just a matter of your willingness to find out, say the fuck around and find out approach, or it just is what it is. This is just how things are. I can't, I won't, I fill in the blank, And I think if there's one thing that social media has done that is just vastly damaging, is it's raised the bar of expectations without providing the necessity of what it takes to actually build. There's all these 3 easy hacks and get rich quick schemes and showing people all of these mismanaged, unrealistic ways to be able to rent a car that's well above your income range, to be able to feel a certain way, fake it till you make it, all the noise. And it steals people's ability to just be present, to just be intentional, and all things can be created with just those 2 things, being present and being intentional. You can create magic.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jake, I like what you were talking about earlier too. What Mikey was just saying made me think about it again. When we were talking about, going to the gym and what does it take, to get yourself back in the gym. I think where people fail at that is because they have these bars that they set that are way up here, right? And then they can't achieve that, right? So if you're going to go to the gym, you know, you just got to set your mind like, hey, I don't need to go to the gym and do 5 chest exercises today and do 40 reps. And, you know, I don't have to do that. I just got to get to the gym and do something today. Right.
Yeah.
I could just walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes. That's better than sitting at home on my ass for no minutes. Right. Like, even if it's just something simple, just go there. Someday you're going to have the energy to do more than the other days, but just the point is get your ass up and go there and do something, put one foot in front of the other, like you guys said earlier.
And
I
I
think
think we go ahead. Sorry. Finish.
no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that could even go back to earlier when you first started this, when you consider yourself an entrepreneur, not just a tattoo artist or not just the one thing. I think that scenario could go in life in general. A lot of these new tattoo artists or these new online coaches or whatever the genre is, they don't have that same perception. They don't have that same view. They just think, well, I'm just this, so I can't do this. It goes the same way, just like going to the gym or the non-negotiables or that bitch voice. You got to think a little bit further than just, and a lot of the tattoo artists we do work with, they don't consider themselves that entrepreneur. They consider themselves, oh, I'm just a tattoo artist. Well, what else do you want to do? I don't know. But then you start peeling the layers back on that onion. And now they want to do canvas paintings. They want to do an apparel company. They want to own a gym one day. And I think it goes all around for whoever's listening. It's not just that one. You got to step outside that box.
You know, it's funny. I was at a business mixer last week, just through the Chamber of Commerce, the local Chamber of Commerce. They had an after hours business mixer, and I went there with my fiance. She got invited there, so I was just tagged along with her. But I didn't have any business cards with me or anything. You know, I went in there completely unprepared to mix it up with other business people. But I just went to hang out, and but something really alarming came to the surface in the context when people were coming up to me. They're like, "Oh, hey, what do you do?" You know, and I'm like, I don't even know how to answer that fucking question. Like, I don't know. You guys asked me at the beginning, and I think I summed it up pretty nicely, but that was because I had already thought about it after the business mixer. Yeah. And so all my business cards just say Electrum Tattoo Supply on them, right? They don't really sum up what I do. So I had to create new business cards next week because, like, when I go to a business mixer, nobody in that crowd's going to give a shit about tattoo supplies. Like,
so tell me this, what does that new card say?
It says brand builder.
It is.
You know, brand builder is the number one thing on there. Entrepreneur, brand builder, and life coach, I think, is what I put on there.
Okay.
And honestly, I'm not really even, I don't have aspirations to be a life coach. I think just by default, I'm kind of falling into that category, and I don't really have any intention of turning it into a thing. Yeah. You know, it's just, I was at the Chicago Tattoo Convention, and several tattoo artists have picked up that Warrior Journal now, Mikey, and I was just having people come up to me in the aisles saying, "Hey, can you come over here and meet my fiance? She bought your Warrior Journal and she wants to meet you." And I'm like, "What?" And then I go over there and she's like, "This thing's crazy good." And like, I'm like, "Oh, thanks. You know, it's awesome that you like it," and blah, blah, blah. And even sometimes if I just post a workout video, dude, I'm not like a gym influencer where I'm like, you know, this is the form you should have and this is what you should do. Sometimes I just post a 10-second clip of like doing an exercise or something, and I don't even put a caption with it or anything. I don't talk during it. I'll just say get up and grind or something like that. You know what I mean? And just simple stuff like that. People will message me and be like, "Dude, thanks for posting that, man. You're like motivating me to get up and do something." And I'm like, well, that's fucking awesome. That's great. So I think even if it's just simple things like that, you can be a life coach in those contexts, right? I don't have to have a freaking $2,000 course or a freaking excursion on the beach in Florida with 1,000 people and, you know, 3 days long to be a life coach. Like, that's not what that's about. Anytime you have the power to influence other people, you're being a life coach.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. What's beautiful about that is I think when you go back to being a real creative or a real entrepreneur, it's not a matter, and this is where I got it wrong once upon a time. I was trying to meet the expectations of what it was I assumed an entrepreneur would do. What is it that would categorize me as an entrepreneur in the eyes of others, instead of realizing that no matter what I do, if done with the right intention, done with the right intensity, and done for a long enough duration of time, would inevitably help me live a life of freedom. You know, even all the talking head shit that I did for years why? You know, the words I said meant volumes to me, but if the delivery isn't right, then it's in the hands of the consumer. Where if all I do is what I do and I document the process free of words, or maybe one punchy statement that just made the most sense to me in that moment, in that painting, in that lift, whatever the case may be, then it becomes your byproduct. And going back to like people wear the badge before they build the person, I think that's a big issue with musicians, tattoo artists, creatives. Is tattoo artist's biggest goal is to become a tattoo artist. Once you become it, then you wear the badge of, and the rest of you stops growing so that this thing can hopefully flourish. But what I've come to find in being in the entrepreneurial space is if I don't tell people what I do, I just genuinely show them what I do, and I believe in every action that I take, the inevitable outcome or the byproduct is the entrepreneurial way of life. And I think that comes with freedom. Like, so what do we search for in life? We're in the never-ending pursuit of freedom. You know, and when I wear the badge of entrepreneur or tattoo artist, I'm no longer free. I'm metaphorically punching the clock of something else instead of creating true freedom in the way that I express, the way that I create, and the way that I live. And so what does freedom look like to Rob?
Freedom to me is just the ability to do what I want when I want to do it without any accountability, right? That's true freedom. I mean, but you say some interesting things, Mike, and I want to kind of ask you a couple questions because this could open a door to a lengthier conversation. But I'm curious as I think about when you use the identity tattoo artist, right? Like I know 10,000 tattoo artists, right?
Yeah.
Do you think I know a lot of them that struggle with their identities, right? I wonder in the world, like how many are you just a tattoo artist, right? Like is that truly how you identify? I think a good way to phrase that question is what's on your business card, right? Like what's on your business card? Does it just say tattoo artist? Is that really all you are? Or are you something much more than a tattoo artist, right?
Yep.
Because I think most of the people that I know are much more than just tattoo artists, but they just identify as tattoo artists. I think that's an internal struggle for a lot of people, right? And I think that's the reason why people don't find their true freedom because they really don't know what they are.
Yeah.
They only know how to identify as this singular thing, right? I did that for a long time too, man. You guys had a guy on the podcast. I saw a clip on social media. I don't remember his name, but I remember exactly what he said. He said, "I think people are just craving authenticity, right?" And to me, that stood out. That was a great clip that you guys posted because that is a very powerful statement. Because you don't see a lot of authenticity in the world. You know, it's like, especially in social media, man. It's just people putting on masks and wearing whatever they think the consumer wants to see. I mean, shit, dude, you get Facebook that sends you prompts about making videos because you haven't posted a video often enough. You need to post more reels. And then they even give you suggestions on what kind of reels they're trying to groom you and tell you what kind of content you should be making and what kind of person you should be presenting yourself as. But I like the guy that you had on because it throws all that out the window. And that's really the way it should be. Fuck that. Be yourself. I think, Mikey, the content that you post, the talking head videos, is what you should be doing. As long as it's authentic and it's really, truly who Mikey is, you know, that's great. Put that out there. Doesn't matter if it resonates with one person or 500. If it's truly you, put it out there. That's why I like what Gary Vee says all the time about who gives a fuck what content you're making. Just put the fucking camera on and record.
Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of the big struggle, and I can only speak from my own experiences, obviously, is when people used to say tattooing is a lifestyle. And this goes for anyone in any creative field. Tattooing is a lifestyle. How? You know, if I show up as Tattoo Mike as a dad, it's not going to be really good guidance. There's not going to be a lot of discipline. There's not going to be a lot of that, like that quality interaction. You know, the person that I am, taking the tattoo artist badge off creates a better tattoo experience when it's its turn to get my undivided attention. And I think a lot of the time people struggle with, what does it mean to be a tattoo artist? Is it simply because it's the product that you produce? Is it simply because of the medium that you focused on? Is it because of what it is it says on your LLC or on your license? Because all of those things are just outside of you. It's who you become. What I've come to find is I get more clients in my tattoo career by posting my life and my actual artwork, my paintings and everything, significantly more than I just do when I say, look at my pic. You know, because a lot of artists, they hide behind it. Like, I'm a tattoo artist and you can't see anything about the person. And we've neglected so much of ourselves for the badge we wish to wear to be perceived as the thing, that's where a lot of the focus needs to come from. Now, going back to the journaling, the fitness, the warrior journal, and the actions you take, all of that is what makes Rob Rob. Despite what it says on the business card, it's in the accolades, it's in the experiences, it's in the communication and the confidence there. You know, 90% of my clients, I still do one-on-one, in-person, 15-minute interview process, because I want people to get to know who they're working with. I don't just want them to believe I'm going to do a sick tat bro. I want them to be fully aware that their idea means as much to me as it does to them. And if their idea doesn't align to me the way they want it to, I will find them an artist who will be suitable and as excited as they are, because my reputation as an artist is now given and put in the hands of someone else. And that's a lot of weight to bear. And tattoo artists may not have the confidence to allow that to be the case. Social media has made that even harder, because now it's all persona over personality. You can create a persona, but you can't fake a personality long-term. You know, and personalities are only going to be built by the person you are when the red light's not on, when no one else is watching.
Rob, I got a question for you. You know, as a 50-year-old man, you've obviously experienced a lot, but the way you speak and the things that you do with your daily habits and everything you've come about, have you invested in mentorship, or where have you been taught these techniques or learned or experienced them?
Yeah, I've invested a lot, man. You know, I spent 16 years in manufacturing, dude. So, I had a company that really invested a lot. You know, they wanted me to, you know, all throughout my life, people have seen potential in me where I haven't necessarily recognized it myself, you know? So there have been a lot of people that have invested time and effort into me. And I've never turned it down when it's been offered. You know, I took Dale Carnegie class. You know, it's probably been one of the most impactful things that I ever did in my management career. But I took that How to Win Friends and Influence People Dale Carnegie class. Super powerful. You know, I'd recommend that to anybody. It's a commitment. You know, it's 12 weeks. It's 4 hours one day every week. You go to these classes, and I happen to take it with a whole shitload of Amish people. So it was very, very weird for me because I'm not typically around Amish people. I have all these stereotypes about Amish people, you know, so I walk into this room and I think, you know, I'm this heavily tattooed guy walking into this room with people that think probably I'm the devil, right? Like,
they have stereotypes of you as well,
bro. Yeah. But I'll tell you, dude, it was one of the best things I ever did. And, you know, in that class, they basically, at the end of every session, they basically decide, you know, who is the standout star this week, you know, and I didn't win all those, but I won a handful of them, you know, where the Amish people were voting for me to win. And so I was definitely doing something right in that class. But I'll tell you, man, I was doing good while I was doing the class, but shortly after I got out of the class, I just started going back through that relapse cycle. You know, I like to use that relapse word a lot because I forgot everything that Dale Carnegie taught me within, you know, 6 months of taking that class. And my wife would be quick to remind me like, hey, shouldn't you be using that Dale Carnegie tool? And I'd be like, fuck that, you know, buy it up. You know, it's like, but but no, man, I've taken a lot of classes. I've read a shit ton of books, man. I mean, I just read so much. There's just piles of books all over my house, and it's all self-help books. I don't read fiction too much. It's all self-help, motivational type stuff. And I write a lot.
For the artist or the any individual watching right now, what would be the one book you recommend to them out of those?
Dude, so I read The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins recently. I think it's probably one of the best books I've ever read in my life. I think it's a little too long and it repeats a lot of stuff. I think you can get what you need to get out of it in the first few chapters. But it's all about that book had a significant impact in my thought process about how I deal with other people and the energy that other people bring into your circle. It's just, you can't control what other people do. So you just got to let them be them. And you've got to decide how you want to react to them being them. Because dude, I had a lot of damaged relationships, man, with my kids, business partners, and directly related to the way that I reacted to situations that weren't necessarily in my control. And in retrospect, if I would have known some of those things earlier on, I probably could have salvaged a lot of that. I probably could have done a lot less damage to myself and to them. I could have been a lot further probably in life if I would have known some of those principles. So that's definitely one that's high on the list. But also like The Art of War and things like that are great. Any of the Robert Greene books are great reads, depending on what you're trying to accomplish with your, approach to people. But yeah, The Let Them Theory, that's one book I would definitely recommend to anyone.
Cool.
What are you reading right now, Jake?
I just finished The Gap in the Gain and the new one. So the two books that hit me so far this year, because I'm in between, I'm with a mentor right now, life coach, and first book recommended was 4 Agreements. Man, that just opened up my mind. And then The Gap in the Gain has really helped. I can't think of the new one he recommended, but I'll be starting a new one tomorrow morning, Mikey.
There you go.
But yeah, The Gap in the Gain, that one.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one. I did read the 4 Agreements. That's a great book.
Great book. Yeah, Gap in the Gain. Fuck, I mean, I don't know if it's just, I do audio, so I don't know if it was just the voice or just what connected with me, but it was one of those where I came home and did it has you go home and journal and self-reflect on that chapter. So it asks you specific questions each chapter. That was the one book I actually came home and wrote everything down and got a lot out of it. So yeah, it was a good one.
Who wrote that book? Do you know offhand?
I don't know. I'm so bad. I'm bad at authors. A lot of the Tim Grover stuff really hit with me too. I mean, that was probably Winning was probably one of the best. What's the name of Sean's book?
How to Make Shit Happen.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones in 2019 when I, kicked addiction and some other things. Let me see who wrote that.
I'm actually, I'm going to work with Tim Grover in June.
I'd love to meet that guy.
What are you reading right now, Mikey?
A book called Wild at Heart. I am reading a book called Stoicism, which is just 360 pages. So 1 page a day. I start with that. Then I go to Wild at Heart or the Bible, actually. Yeah. Nice. I'm reassessing. I've struggled a lot with my faith, not in comparison to what I believe is my higher power, but the modernized, overly humanized approach to Christianity. I struggle with people. And so I find my own understanding of, so I've decided to go back and read the Bible as well.
Yeah. Nice. Dan Sullivan.
I've heard of Dan Sullivan.
Oh, dude, it was, I don't read a whole lot of self-help. I'm not a big reader. But it's damn funny. Every time I get done with a book, I'm just like, fuck, I'm fired up. But okay, what's kind of the goal, Rob? What's the what can we expect in 2026 from you? I mean, you got any big plans, new brands?
No, dude, I really I wish I had 100% of time to just focus on Successrifice right now, because I feel like it's the most self-fulfilling path that I'm on, and I need that in my life more than anything. Like I said, dude, I've spent, man, I was telling Mikey, I kind of segmented my life into these 3 chapters, right? Like the first 20 years were really like the shit years, man. Like that was, those were really shitty years of my life. The second 20 years were really the learning years, like trying to truly figure out who I am as a person coming out of those first 20 years, and then this next chapter of my life, however long it is really the golden years of my life, being the best version of myself now that I know who I am completely, right?
Yeah.
And developing that person fully. And a lot of that is becoming a master operator and teaching other people how to become a master operator. Because honestly, as I look around the world, man, I think that's where humanity struggles the most. It's with self-identity and confidence in who they are as a person, and being the master of their own play, and really just defeating that critic in their mind, right? So I don't really have interest to, like I said, I don't plan on developing big coaching sessions and teams and having breakout meetings with people. That's not really where I see myself spending my time and my energy. I've got a goal to finish up my first book, even though it's not my first book. This is technically now the first book, but the first book that I started writing, I'm trying to have that finished by the end of April. And my goal is to not self-publish that one on Amazon. I'm really proud of this book, man. I mean, is it
really would deep. Is it a self-help or more of a biography?
It's a little bit of both.
Awesome.
It's a little bit of both. It's got a lot of personal stories in it. Okay. I'll tell you, I let my fiance read the first 7 chapters yesterday. So when I wrote this, I've got about 41 chapters worth of context in it. And I was like, man, I got to really get this condensed down. And I wanted to put some personal stories in there. So I've really just been kind of reformatting it. But I got the first 7 chapters reformatted, and I told my fiance, I mean, dude, when I went back and I was writing it and reading it again, it got really emotional for me. And it hit me in some places, man. And I was like, damn, dude, this is some powerful shit, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, told my fiance the other night, I turned the TV off and just made the room quiet. And I set my computer in front of her. I said, I want you to just read these first 7 chapters. And I sat on the other side of the room and I watched her reading. And then I saw a tear rolling down her face, man. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, fucking got her, bro. I was like, that motherfucker got her.
Yeah.
And dude, I know this fucking book is going to be a game changer for a lot of people, dude. I mean, I could feel it in my core. And it's the first time where I'm actually coming out and telling like true stories about myself, dude. Like, no, a lot of people in my circle know me on the surface, bro, but I don't talk about the layers of me too often with people, right? So I do in this book, man, and I think it's a powerful book, dude. I really think so. My goal is to get a real publishing deal with this book, man. I want this book out there, dude. I want a lot of people to get this book in their hands, and I'm going to get copies made and just give it to people because I believe it's so transformational. It can be so transformational, and I really have no goals with it other than to get it out there. And if it can help people, great. Awesome. If I can make a New York Times bestseller list, fucking amazing.
When you become
when, right.
Yeah. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Love
dude.
It, man.
So that's my goal, man. That's my big goal right now. Get that book done.
All right. Where can people find you?
Bro, I'm all over social media, man. No Flash Ninja on Instagram, Rob Smead on Facebook, Successrifice.com. Those are the main spots, man.
All right. So if you guys are looking for life coaching, hit up one of those platforms.
Yeah, sure.
What'd you got, Mikey?
Oh, nothing, man. I just, again, as I kicked it off, dude, I sincerely appreciate your time. I appreciate all the conversations. It's rare in the world that we live in to be able to like feel authenticity in communication. And you are one of those people who've just been genuine. And that's really fucking cool to be able to have conversations like this as frequently as we do at this point. So thanks for being a part of that.
Yeah. We don't need more Wes Watsons in the world, right?
Yeah. Everyone's like, I can't believe he's back in the news. I'm like, I can.
Yeah. Where else did you plan on him going?
Yeah. I never knew who that dude was. The first time I ever saw that guy, I don't even know what it was, but he was on a dais. There was like, I don't know, 15 people up on this stage, and it was all business people. you know, they were just talking about what makes excellent business people. And he's up on the stage and he's basically talking shit to all these people, you know, like calling them pussies. And like, I'm like, who the hell is this dude, bro?
That's what, you're like, people pay this guy and a lot.
I was like,
awesome, man.
You know, here's kind of a fascinating thing about that. And hopefully this is the last thing I say. There's an allure to people who have come from damage to greatness that look like degenerates, but can speak well, you know, and whether like love him or hate him, his delivery was spot on to people who wished they could, but were always too afraid to. Yeah. And that was all he had, you know, at least in the beginning. He did build a successful business from successful standards, but it doesn't mean he was the most authentic person doing so. But I mean, the reason men like us succeed at a rapid rate is because we have an element of self that most people have always been afraid to, and that's to be ourselves authentically with our, like the way the cover of the book looks, along with the context behind it. A lot of people will judge a book by its cover, but you have to be the one that makes yourself so inviting that they're willing to understand the context. And I think that's where the authenticity really comes from, is when communication has been diluted to such a degree that people have a hard time even looking someone in the eye and shaking their hand. There's no context to humanity. It's all just what you see, 30-second clips, hooks, content. But then the in-person interaction is so minimal and so underwhelming that when we get to have these conversations, you really get the opportunity to get to know the context of a person's character, what it was that it took to create that character, which then gives people hope that they can too.
Yeah, let's talk about it though, because do you think, because I think if you go back, and Wes Watson's a good example of this, because I think he did have a winning formula for a while, right? Yeah. Like he was authentic for a while, and that's what worked for him. Do you think fame just got a hold of him and flipped the script and took over, and then he just became this fucking shitbag? Or do you think that's who he genuinely always was?
A little bit of both.
Yeah. I honestly think that his intentions were right in the beginning. And just like you and I have said, when you're in prison, you have nothing but time to create a really solid plan. But if that plan doesn't take you further than how much you can earn, then autopilot kicks in. You go back into neutral, and then all of a sudden the monster comes back out. The mess starts to occur and all of that. I like when I was in prison, the mentality of the Force of Focus started while I was in prison. And I wrote down my goals. I wrote down my reasons why. I wrote down the potential outcome. If I can achieve A, B, and C, the outcome will be X, Y, and Z. And from that, I will build fill in the blank. And because I never allowed myself to stop with that, and then I was never given myself the freedom to go back to what celebration used to look like. Because if there's one thing I lack in, it's knowing what reward I'm looking for or what celebration is. I don't take a lot of time to over celebrate because of let's consider it the athletic mindset. The only people who have off seasons in sports are fans. Athletes don't have off season. They just go right back into training.
Right.
People who buy the jerseys take off season. People who wear the jerseys continuously go for gold.
Right.
And I think that's where it went wrong, was he hit the place he had always saw for himself while incarcerated. And then all of a sudden the old celebration West came back out. And that's when the mess really just got out of control, because there was no map to take him further than X.
Yeah, he needed to get his ass out of Miami and that party scene, bro. That's
yeah, that too. Yeah. Well, I can't remember who just said it. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a lot of books as well, and you know, I think one thing is the applause gets the best of all of us. You know, and I think the more applause there is, the more you believe that you're on the right path, and then you start replacing the actual applause with the validation. And people, especially on social media, when that's your primary platform, will always applaud the things that are cringy. So the more you start to see the market navigating you in this direction, the more you start accidentally taking the more scenic route to just doing all of the degenerate shit, because attention got you to X, but now the wrong attention's steering you into the guardrails. And I think a lot of people, that goes back to what badge do you wear? You know, like when you look at tattoo artists who create content, they're marketing to each other. They're not even marketing to quality clients anymore. The reason they're not successful, in their opinion, isn't because the market's oversaturated. It's because the only people you're marketing to are the people you're in competition with. The only content you're looking to mimic is the performing content of your competition, who is only getting the accolades from other people they're in competition with. So there's all these layers of who it is you can truly serve that are being completely neglected.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of why I don't talk as much anymore, because genuinely, man, like, I finally love my life. You know, it's hard, it's rugged, it's stressful, it's scary as shit. I'm in a constant state of productive fear, and I love it more now than I did when I thought I had it all figured out. Because I'm back to the grind every day. I was telling Jake before we started this, like, my head's down. You know, I'm not bringing it up until I've figured out what the next level can truly look like for myself and my family, because I neglected my own art. Last year, I did 2 paintings in all of 2025. This year, I've done 9 in 2026. I've spent more time as a father and as a husband and as myself, spending more time with my fitness, not because I want to spray paint myself brown or put on the banana hammock, but simply because I know that it's going to keep my mind sharp. When I look at myself in the mirror, I'm significantly less depressed about what it is I'm seeing. I'm still not there, but I do know that when people think fitness, they immediately think what social media shows them, the gym mirror selfie. I just want to feel really good. You know, I want to know that my heart's not going to stop. I want to know that I'm not salivating over the thought of a cupcake. I want to know that I don't have to think about anything else other than what I am called to create. I'm not doing it for what people are calling me for what they want. I'm doing it because it's genuinely who I am. And it's hard, you know, and when things are hard, I know it's right. When things get easy, I generally realize I'm off the fucking path. And it's only going to get worse if I stay in that easy cycle for too fucking long.
No, like I said, Mikey, I told you the last time we talked on the phone, it's good to see your evolution, because I see your social media stuff even coming up. It's in my algorithm now. So you're popping up in my feed all the time. Right. So it's cool to see your painting. And the other day there was a video that popped up with I think your kid was in like a Power Wheel or something. You know, it's like, these are just the authentic moments that people want to see. You know, the people that are following you, that's the stuff they want to see. They don't want to see necessarily, you know, the talking head video stuff's great too, but it's good to have that mix. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just this, it's this and this and this. And so I think it's good. You're going through that evolutionary process. It's life gets very dull when you just stay the same all the time and you don't ever develop into a different version, you know? So congrats and kudos, bro.
We moved just under a ton of peat gravel with that 24-volt dump truck that I bought him. Oh man. Like, I see a little 3-year-old learn how to actually dump with it. Like, we're building my wife a garden, and just seeing this kid, like, let's go move rocks, pops his cowboy hat on. He's got his fake screwdriver trying to tighten in all the screws and shit. Those are the moments I do all this for.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? But dude, I appreciate it. It's good to align with mentally strong men who actually prioritize what life is supposed to be, not prioritize the perception of what life's supposed to look like, because it's all messy. But living in that mess is such a cool thing, to have like other men and other people to really be able to reflect on what reality is, not what social media leads us to believe our lives are supposed to look like.
Right.
And that is success.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you, man.